I'm not just a town resident here, I'm also a recovering heroin addict. I've been in recovery now for 1.5 years. And I want to read you something because most people don't understand about addiction because they haven't experienced it and they don't know what it feels like firsthand. You know when you're underwater holding your breath and you get that desperate, anxious feeling as your body starts to scream for air? You try to hold it as long as you can before you quickly break through the water surface and breathe in, relieved. That's what heroin addiction is like. Instead of being desperate for air, you're desperate for a drug. Every fiber of your being screams for heroin. Your body physically depends on it, and mentally, your brain does too. Once you discover it numbs your pain, it becomes your new life source. But it's not really giving you life, it's killing you. And I personally believe that here we don't have enough treatment centers for heroin addicts. There's not enough help. Because I know when I reached out for help, I used heroin for 10 years. And it was so hard to get help. It was so hard to find a treatment center where I could medically detox because the withdrawals were so bad. And you know, there's just treatment centers here, but they're not medically, they're not MAT centers. They're not medically able to detox somebody. And you know, I also agree with the man that just spoke before me. There needs to be more access to drug court. I am also in the City of Newburgh drug court, and it saved my life. And instead of being sentenced to 1 year in jail, I got sentenced to 1 year in treatment. And it completely changed my life. It saved my life. And there's a lot of people who don't have that opportunity because they're rather judged and they're thrown in that stigma that you're a heroin addict, you're a criminal, you're a thief, you're no good, and you're not worth it. And that's not true because it doesn't matter if you're a heroin addict or you're the richest man in the world. Everybody deserves a second chance and everybody deserves that opportunity to change their life. And it's very hard, especially in Newburgh, because you're just thrown in that stigma where drug addiction, it's so bad and nobody wants to help you. And it's a shame that, you know, there's so many people who deserve help and who need help and who ask for help and aren't given help. And like I said, I used heroin for 10 years, and it wasn't until May of 2016 when I finally got into treatment because I had trouble with my insurance. I had trouble finding a place that would keep me for more than 10 days because you need more than 10 days to detox off of heroin and opiates or even benzos, you know, and it's a struggle for people, and you just want to right away turn your back on somebody who uses heroin because they end up stealing and they end up lying and they end up being manipulators, but that's not who we really are. And if you really research into drug addiction and you really understand what goes on, is that the heroin and the opioids, they change your chemical imbalance of your brain, and it just destroys all your right from wrong perception. And you know, like what I read to you is you just want that drug so bad because your body completely changes and you just can't physically survive without it because you get hot, cold sweats, you get pain, you vomit, you can't eat, you can't sleep. And it's a shame, and I feel personally, as somebody who is in recovery and who has went through it, there needs to be more help given, especially in this area alone, because there's one methadone Suboxone clinic, and it took me almost 1.5 years to get into that clinic when I tried multiple times, and it's so hard to get help, and that's why people continue to use drugs, is because the help, it's there, but it's not as accessible. And we have to deal so much with our insurance, and once you get into treatment, some places, they're not that great to you. I had to go down to New York City, the Lower East Side of Manhattan, in order to get treatment and to get help and to be medically detoxed off of methadone and heroin. And I tried in this community for almost 10 years. And you know, I just feel that there just needs to be more centers, to even shelters for heroin addicts, because most addicts are homeless. and they only have the one shelter, and you have to jump through hoops to get into it.